I never imagined waking up in a Victorian workhouse, facing heartbreak and despair. The scent of damp wood wrapped around me like a shroud. Cold drafts slipped through the bars of the window, biting at my skin as I lay on a thin, tattered mattress. My heart raced, echoes of distant cries weaving into the silence. I blinked, staring at the peeling wallpaper, hiding countless stories of suffering and loss. I sat up slowly, my trembling hands brushing against the rough fabric of my dress. Confusion washed over me. Where was I? How did I get here? The last memory I had was of laughter, a friend's birthday party. Now, silence screamed louder than chaos. Darkness loomed, pressing against my chest as I took deep breaths, trying to calm the rising tide of panic. A tall figure emerged from the shadows. She wore a stark white apron and her eyes were stern, full of unspoken rules. The women here were ghosts, whispering secrets that slipped through my fingers like sand. I could feel the weight of their despair pressing down, suffocating and relentless. Laughter here was a distant memory, perhaps even a curse. A flicker of movement caught my eye, a child huddled in the corner, clutching a dirty ragged doll. Her wide, tear-streaked eyes mirrored my confusion. "They say it can take everything," she whispered, "even your breath." I shivered at her words. What had happened to my family? My friends? The sound of footsteps echoed through the cold corridors, each thud reverberating in my soul. Something heavy hung in the air, a secret that twisted my gut. The mood was thick with anxiety, and the whispers grew louder, each word a dagger of despair. "They never leave," echoed from the shadows. I rose, longing for the sun's warmth, and stumbled forward, desperate for answers in this labyrinth of sorrow. Hope flickered. Maybe there was a way out. Maybe it was just a bad dream. But as I pressed on, the darkness seemed to thicken, taunting me. Each turn felt like I was dancing along a precipice, the abyss calling my name. Then, the door creaked open, revealing a ray of feeble light. Standing in the doorway was a figure cloaked in mystery, their face obscured. "Welcome to the end," they said, their voice chilling me to the bone. Was this the end of hope? What did that mean for me? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The door remained ajar, the strange figure silhouetted against the pale glow of the sterile hallway. My heart raced, part of me wanted to flee, dive back into the safety of my mattress, while another part yearned for answers. I held my breath, summoning every ounce of courage. "What do you mean, the end?" I whispered, my voice trembling like the fragile child I had seen earlier. The figure stepped forward, the light catching a glimpse of their face, a young woman with a mixture of resolve and sorrow etched across her features. Her eyes, an unexpected shade of soft gray, bore into mine, searching for the remnants of hope. "It's not the end for everyone, but it is for many here," she said, her voice a gentle balm layered with the heaviness of truth. "You must tread carefully. The workhouse has a way of consuming souls." I swallowed hard, unsure of what to say. Before I could speak, she reached out, taking my hand in hers. "My name is Clara," she said, warmth radiating from her touch. "And you're not alone. There are those who still find flickers of light, even in this darkness." I stood frozen for a moment, absorbing her words. Clara seemed like a beacon in the murkiness that surrounded me. "Why are you here?" I managed to ask, my curiosity overpowering my fear. "I'm here to help," she replied, her grip tightening slightly. "But I can't save you if you don't want to be saved." There was a challenge in her gaze, one that reflected a glimmer of something more. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the corridor, a cacophony of shattered glass piercing through the silence. I jumped, instinct igniting my body to run, but Clara's hand held firm. "Stay close to me," she urged, leading me deeper into the shadows. "They need to see your strength." This was it, a test of some sort. Panic rose within me like a tidal wave, but Clara's unwavering presence anchored me. We hurried down the dimly lit hallway, passing door after door, each one a reminder of the stories trapped behind them. A chance flickering light from one room caught my eye. I wavered, wanting to peer inside, but Clara gently steered me past it. "Those who are broken tend to linger where the light penetrates," she explained softly. "Don't get too close. The shadows are deceptive." As we turned the corner, we stumbled upon a small group of women sharing scraps of what appeared to be bread and water. They paused at our approach, their eyes sizing me up with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. There was a palpable tension in the air. Clara nodded to them, and I felt the weight of their collective gaze. It was as if they were silently determining my worth, assessing whether I would be another soul lost to despair. "Newcomer," one woman spoke, her voice raspy, as if it hadn't been used in ages. "You have any fight left in you?" I felt Clara's hand squeeze mine as I pushed the words out, "I want to find a way out." The admission hung in the air like a fragile bubble, one that could burst at any moment, and that was when I saw her, the small girl I had spotted earlier, still clutching her doll in the corner. Her eyes widened with a spark of recognition, and she took a tentative step toward me. "They say if you believe, the tunnel might lead you out," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. "But many don't return." A shiver slithered down my spine. The thought of a tunnel sent my mind racing, yet fear tangled tightly around my heart. "Where is this tunnel?" I asked, my voice shaking with both hope and trepidation. The girl pointed down the corridor, her face taut with concentrated determination. "Through the basement. But no one dares go." What lingered between us now was a pulse of possibility, though cloaked in danger. While others here had been dulled by hopelessness, this innocent child's belief ignited a flicker within me. Civilization felt far away, and yet the notion of freedom was tantalizingly close. Maybe we can go together?" I offered, glancing toward Clara, whose expression mirrored my hope with a hint of trepidation. Just then, a loud voice bellowed from behind us, "What are you all staring at? Back to work." A sudden chill rushed through me, the authority in his tone reinforcing my deepest fears. Clara tightened her hold, her body bracing against whatever storm might come, and just as quickly as it began, our small spark of hope flickered again, the darkness pressing in relentlessly. The women shuffled back into line, leaving only the small girl and me. "Be careful," she said as the shadows grew heavier around us. "You may not find the end you're looking for." Clara's grip on my hand was both comforting and constricting, and as we turned to step away from the now disbanding group, I caught sight of movement in the distance, another figure watching from the shadows. This time, the look was different, a glimmer of recognition in their eyes, an echo from my distant past, a familiarity that sent my heart spiraling into uncertainty. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice almost swallowed by the encroaching darkness. The figure merely stepped back, disappearing into the gloom, leaving my heart hammering and my thoughts racing. What were the ties that bound us? Was this life only a cruel reenactment of painful memories, or could there be a glimmer of connection buried amidst the despair? The weight of the hidden revelations pressed heavily on my chest as I faced the uncertain path ahead, fear and hope intertwined, leaving me teetering on the edge of a precipice I couldn't yet see. As Clara and I resumed our silent march down the corridor, her presence felt like an anchor in a tempest. My mind churned, fixating on the figure I had glimpsed in the shadows. The familiarity pricked at my consciousness like a sharp thorn, provoking worry and a hint of nostalgia for a life I could barely remember. It was an unsettling reminder that the past could loom large, casting shadows as deep as the current darkness I faced. The air grew thicker with tension, and I could hear the echoes of voices from the rooms around us, whispers, cries, and muted laughter blended into an unsettling symphony. Each door seemed like a doorway to a different life, a unique story trapped within the confines of brick and mortar. I wished I could understand them, could unravel their hurts and hopes. But how could I do that when my own yearned to break free from this place? "There's something you should know," Clara said, breaking the heavy silence. She stopped in her tracks, turning to face me. "This workhouse is divided in ways you can't see. Some parts carry whispers of hope, but others are steeped in darkness. Better to be cautious of where you tread." "Cautious how?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, feeling the weight of her warning. "What happens if you venture into those darker places? There are things here people who don't take kindly to change. They might see your strength as a threat," she replied, her eyes filled with a mix of resolve and fear. "And they can be ruthless." The thought clenched around my heart, squeezing tight. I wasn't merely battling my own fears but now had to navigate the minefield of others' insecurities and ambitions too. "But we can't be afraid to change things, can we? To find a path that leads us out?" "We can try," Clara conceded, her voice imbued with everything power, pain, and a stubborn ember of hope. "Together." A flicker of warmth spread through me at her words, igniting a defiance I didn't know I had. But as we moved further along the corridor, another crash erupted in the distance followed by sharp, angry shouts. My heart raced as adrenaline pumped through my veins, and I instinctively moved closer to Clara, my pulse loud in my ears. "Come on," she urged, her eyes scanning the shadows with unnerving confidence. "This way." We turned a corner rapidly, and as we did, I caught sight of a barred door at the end of the hallway, leading to an unknown space behind it. Suddenly, the noise became clearer, frantic and aggressive. It was the unmistakable sound of struggle. My instincts begged me to turn away, to retreat into safety, but my feet felt rooted in place. "They're fighting," I breathed, glancing up at Clara, anticipation and fear swirling in my gut. "It's just a distraction," she murmured, concern gripping her features. "But it gives us a chance to move undetected. Quick." As we slipped past the bars, I felt an overwhelming swell of exhilaration and dread. The passage opened up into a dimly lit storeroom, dust motes swirling lazily in the feeble light that filtered through irrelevant cracks in the walls. Shelves were lined with empty jars and discarded medical supplies, relics of forgotten moments. "Where do we go from here?" I whispered. "Is this part of the hope, or part of the darkness?" "Trust your instincts," Clara responded, her voice low but steady. "We will find the tunnel." We navigated through the debris, my heart thumping with both trepidation and excitement. Every thump was a reminder of the nimble figure from my past, compelling me to unravel the truth hidden deep in the shadows. But would I find it here, behind this door, or did it lie elsewhere, beyond what I dared imagine? A sudden noise shattered the air. A loud crash resonated from the main hall, followed by a chilling scream that echoed off the grim walls. A cold shiver rushed down my spine as I exchanged a look with Clara, her eyes wide with alarm. "We need to get out of here," she voiced, her tone urgent, yet, just as we turned to leave, the door swung open violently before us, silhouetting a broad figure in the entrance, broad shoulders, a hardened face, and eyes glinting with a malicious spark that made my breath catch. The air felt electric, the darkness pressing in around us. "Ah, fresh meat," the figure sneered, as the crack of a grin split his face. "Looks like you've strayed too far from the light, girls." I felt the ground shift beneath me. Hope, fear, and uncertainty collided, leaving me on the precipice once more. Would this encounter lead to my end, or was it another twisted chance at survival, at unearthing the truth? The figure loomed larger as he stepped into the room, blocking any potential escape. I could feel Clara's sudden tension beside me, an electric current of panic that mirrored my own. The threat radiating from him was palpable, wrapping around us like a suffocating blanket. "Let us keep this simple," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "You'll either tell me what you're after, or I'll have to teach you a lesson about what happens when young things run around where they don't belong." Every instinct told me to recoil, yet I stood firm, feeling the warmth of Clara's presence at my side. "We're just passing through," I managed to say, forcing the words out despite the tremor in my voice. "And why should I believe you?" he pressed, taking a step closer. His breath carried the scent of stale smoke and something more rotten beneath. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Clara squeezed my hand, and in that small gesture, I felt a flicker of courage ignited between us, a bond we forged amidst the fear that threatened to engulf us. "You don't have to do this," she said, her voice steadying more than mine. "There's no reason for violence." The corner of his lips twisted into a grim smile. "Oh, but you see, that's where you're wrong." He gestured lazily behind him, toward the passage we had come from. "This place thrives on darkness. You think you can bring light into a pit like this? You really are naive." The hint of a challenge danced in his tone, a reminder of the intimidation that awaited with every step I took. "Maybe we're here to change that," I stated, my conviction surprising even myself. I could see Clara's approval flicker in her gaze, and I knew we had stood too long in shadows. We had every right to reach for the light. His laughter rang out, harsh and hollow. "Change? Here?" He paused, his eyes narrowing as if searching for a thread of fear in our resolve. "There are those who would kill to maintain control over the darkness. If you're not careful, you might find yourself in a place where hope goes to die." Before I could respond, I heard a distant commotion from beyond the room, a symphony of footsteps approaching with fierce urgency. It grew louder, thudding against the wooden floors like a storm, each step reverberating with impending chaos. The figure's attention waned momentarily, a glimmer of curiosity lighting his eyes. "What's that?" he growled, his gaze darting to the doorway. "Maybe you should check it out," Clara seethed, using the moment to inch closer to me. The plan imbued her whisper, a fragile thread of hope that somehow marked the path ahead. His expression darkened again, and I could almost see the gears turning in his mind. The distraction was a flicker of luck, but would it be enough for us to slip past? In that heartbeat, as we gathered our strength, the door swung open a fraction wider, the light from the corridor spilling into our dim confinement. A figure stepped through the threshold, silhouetted but unmistakably familiar. My breath caught in my throat. Leo? He was here, alive and looking for us amidst this chaos. The sight of him sent a rush of longing surging through me, but it was quickly tempered by the danger still looming. "Get back!" he shouted, voice strained, panic lacing his tone as he pushed inside, blocking the figure's path with urgency. "They're coming. We need to move now." In that moment, everything spiraled. The figure lunged, swiping at Leo while Clara tugged at my arm, her determination contagious. "We can't stay," she cried. The chaos erupted around us. With Leo's voice cutting through the air like a rallying cry, we darted to the side, slipping past the figure who staggered, caught off guard by the sudden turn of events. It was chaos encapsulated in a breath, a fleeting chance as we barreled toward the doorway. "Get to the stairs!" Leo shouted, over the cacophony of shouts echoing from the main hall, a sound that rolled like a storm, both frightening and powerful. We stumbled into the corridor, flying past the chaos, each shadow and flickering light daring us to falter. Behind us, the figures enraged. Shout intertwined with the roiling chaos, but I refused to look back. Not now, not when hope felt so close. As we reached the staircase, pounding feet echoed ominously behind us, a reminder of the uncertainty that triumphed over certainty. We raced upward, determined to escape the grips of this world that tried to shackle us. But even as we surged forward, I could feel the weight in my heart, the dreadful knowledge that escape alone wouldn't end our suffering. At the top of the stairs was a door, one that glimmered with the promise of freedom. Heart racing, I reached for the handle, but as I turned it, a resounding crash reverberated below us, a final reminder that the shadows would not easily release their hold. The door groaned but refused to budge. "It's locked," I gasped, panic flaring anew. "Stand back," Leo urged, his face taut with determination. But just as he pulled back for a kick, the sound of hurried footsteps and the unmistakable silhouette of another figure emerged from the stairwell, leaving us once again at a crossroads, hope dangling like a thread, trembling in the face of despair that I closed my eyes, taking in a shuddering breath. Whatever lay ahead, it bound us together, caught in a tide of fate we could only begin to understand. As my heart thudded, my mind raced, swaying dangerously between despair and the hint of something that buzzed like electricity in the air, a truth waiting to be revealed, even as danger loomed ever closer. The door rattled violently against its frame, the sound causing my heart to race. Leo's expression hardened as he shifted his weight, preparing to confront whatever shadowed figure had descended upon us. Clara's breath had quickened beside me, her fingers tightening around my wrist almost painfully, a silent plea amidst the chaos. "Please," I whispered, more to myself than anyone, that I kept my eyes fixed on the looming shadow, the figure growing into focus, a woman, draped in a cloak that swallowed her frame, her hair cascading like dark ribbons. As she stepped closer, the faint light from the corridor illuminated her face, revealing sharp cheekbones and eyes that shimmered with an unsettling intensity. "Stop!" she commanded, her voice cutting through the din of footsteps below. "I'm not here to fight." Leo's glare softened momentarily, uncertainty flickering across his features. "Who are you?" he asked, lowering his stance slightly but not fully lowering his guard. "I'm Alina," she said, her gaze sliding from Leo to Clara and finally settling on me, as if pondering the hidden threads of our shared fate. "And I know why you're here." "Then you should also know we don't have time for this," Clara interjected, her frustration seeping into her words. "We need to escape." Alina took a step closer, her eyes narrowing with concern. "No, you don't understand. If you leave now, you will stumble right into the hands of those who want to silence you." A cold knot formed in my stomach as I exchanged a glance with Clara and Leo. Who had sent her, and why was she warning us? An air of desperation lingered in the air, begging for answers. "What are you talking about?" I urged, feeling the weight of the shadows behind us, edging the moment into desperation. "They're coming for you." Alina's voice dropped as though she could sense the palpable dread around us. "There's something you have that they want, something you don't even know yet. Please, let me help you." "Help us?" Leo scoffed. "And why should we trust you?" Before Alina could respond, the door shuddered once more beneath the force of an unseen hand. Whatever awaited us on the other side carried the weight of 1,000 fears, and it struck me that we might not have much time left to decide. "Because you don't have another choice," Alina said, her tone firm but laced with an edge of compassion. "If you stay here, you'll end up trapped like so many before you. I can lead you to safety if you trust me." In that moment, something flickered inside me, a yearning for connection amid the uncertainty. I wasn't certain what it meant to trust this woman, yet I saw a glimmer of something in her eyes, an echo of my own fears and hopes. "What do we have to lose?" I said, my voice unexpectedly steady. Clara shot me a look of disbelief. "This could be a trap, Ava. We don't have time." I faced Alina, desperation clinging to my words. "If you're for real, then lead us. We can't stay here." "Good choice," she replied, moving swiftly toward the corridor. "Follow me, and keep close." As we turned to follow her, the door burst open, wood splintering under the force, sending shards of it flying into the hallway. The figure, the one who had threatened us earlier, was back, a furious snarl twisting his features as his eyes searched for any sign of us. "Get them! They can't get away!" he shouted, his voice a crack of thunder across the chaos. "Run!" Alina urged, and we did. I felt the weight of Clara's hand slipping from my grasp, but just as panic began to creep in, I turned in time to catch her wrist. Tugging her along, we sprinted down the corridor, Alina leading the way with a surety that both alarmed and comforted me. Each footfall echoed as we dashed down side passages, the sounds of chaos fading only slightly behind us. Adrenaline coursed through me, igniting my senses, yet I couldn't shake the sense of loss mingled with the rush. We were running into the unknown, but every turn we took felt like a dance with fate. Finally, Alina brought us to an unmarked door, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling outside. "In here," she urged, and we slipped inside. A cramped dark room that felt like the silence before a storm. "Thank you," I gasped, feeling our shared panic coalesce into a moment of stillness. "But what do you know about us, really?" "I know you carry something no one in this place can afford to lose," Alina replied, her brow furrowing. "Something so powerful that it could turn the tides against those who revel in the darkness." "What are you talking about?" Clara pressed, her voice strained as we caught our breath. "It's time for the truth," Alina said, her gaze flickering between the three of us with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "What I'm about to tell you could change everything or cost you everything." In that moment, I felt the walls closing in, the air heavy with anticipation. I had wanted answers, yet now dread seeped into the corners of my mind. I steeled myself, trying to grasp the reality that had just peeled back layers of uncertainty. "If you want to know," she paused, her expression shifting to something more somber, "you'll be facing the darkest part of your past and perhaps the deepest pain of your heart." The words hung in the air like a thick fog. In that moment, hope and despair danced on the edge of razor-sharp uncertainty, leaving us suspended in a heavy silence. A crash echoed from the hall, followed by the unmistakable sound of boots approaching. The shadows were inexorably closing in. The battle could either begin or we would be forced to confront the truth hidden within ourselves, a truth that had been waiting to unravel since the moment we crossed that threshold. "Are you ready?" Alina asked, determination sparking in her eyes just as fear bathed my soul. My heartbeat drummed out an uncertain rhythm, one of promise, pain, and a lurking dread, as the handle to our fate began to turn. The world outside the door felt like a tempest, the relentless noise of pursuit growing louder with each passing second, echoing in my ears like a judge's gavel preparing to seal our fate. I looked around, searching for comfort in the faces of my companions. Clara's eyes were wide with terror, darting to and fro as if assessing every corner for an escape route. Leo stood tense, his body coiled and ready, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes warming into concern as he glanced at me. "I don't know if I can hear the truth," I admitted, my voice nearly a whisper, trembling under the weight of Alina's words. They unfurled in my mind, slipping like shadows into the deepest corners of my past that I had long since tried to forget. Alina's gaze softened, an understanding glimmering within those intense eyes. "Sometimes, the truth is the only way to break free. It's painful, but it's necessary." Just as I was about to respond, the door rattled violently, a visceral reminder that time was against us. The urgency of our circumstances flooded the room, and I turned my head toward the door, heart racing. "Are you sure we can stay here?" Clara's voice shook slightly as she edged closer to me, her fingers intertwining with mine in a gesture of solidarity that warmed my chilled resolve. "This room is temporary but safe for now," Alina affirmed, voice laced with determination. "The door holds at least for a moment." "Then tell us," Leo urged, his voice low but filled with a steeliness that I admired. "Whatever it is, we need to know," I finished, my heartbeat echoing like a war drum. I wasn't sure I was ready for this, but I also recognized that ignorance might cost us more than what lay before us. Alina inhaled deeply as if steeling herself for the truth she was about to share. "Ava, Clara, you have both been woven from the same fabric as the darkness that pursues you. Your lives hold a connection to a past entwined with grief and sacrifice. You both carry remnants of a power that was lost long ago, one that the shadows want to reclaim." "What power?" Clara asked, and I held my breath, afraid of what might come next. "It's not just about you. It's your heritage," Alina said, the words flowing with a delicate gravity. "Your ancestors were part of a lineage that once stood against the encroaching darkness, guardians of this power. They sealed it away to protect it, but now it's calling to you. It is awakening, and so are those that want to harness it for their own malevolent reasons." A surge of disbelief coursed through me. "Guardians? We're just normal people. How could we possibly?" Alina stepped forward, intensifying her presence. You are more than you realize, Ava. Hiding from the shadows won't protect you. You need to confront what lies within and embrace it, or you will lose everything and everyone you love. I turned towards Leo and Clara, their expressions mirroring the turmoil within me. My heart sank at the weight of Alina's words. Could we truly rise to this challenge? Could I confront the pieces of myself I'd tried so hard to bury? Suddenly, the door splintered again under another fierce blow, and fear seized me like a vice. We need to leave, I insisted, my voice sharper than I intended. If this power is ours to wield, we won't get another chance to escape. We'll face whatever darkness awaits, but we can't do it trapped here. Alina's expression turned resolute. You're right. We must move now and I'll help you unlock the power inside you. But you must trust me completely, she replied, brushing her fingertips against an intricate pendant around her neck, casting a faint glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. Before we could grasp the significance of her words, the door burst open, splintering the last semblance of protection. A figure stood framed in the doorway, cloaked in darkness, eyes burning like coals, a hunter of the shadows, a creature born to manipulate fear and despair. My breath hitched as I recognized the face, one tainted by brutal memories I had long buried. Your time is over. The figure growled, stepping closer, the overpowering stench of malice flooding the room. My stomach twisted in knots as recognition rooted me to the spot. No, I breathed, my fear slamming into me like a tidal wave as I faced the familiar smirk shadowing the intruder's lips. It was him, the man who had haunted my nightmares, the one who had ripped apart my past. Let us finish what was started, he taunted, and in that moment, the world around me blurred. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, and I realized hope and despair were somehow twined together, holding me captive in the realization that the fight wasn't just against the darkness surrounding us, it was also against the darkness within me, my very own past demanding to be faced. Run! Alina shouted, shaking me from my paralysis. But even as we began to turn, the weight of fear threatened to anchor me to the past and the truth that had been waiting in the shadows. The chase was on, enemies all around, and I realized with newfound clarity that our escape was no longer just about fleeing, it was about confronting the legacy I had yet to embrace, even as the terror loomed larger than life itself. In that moment, I understood, there was no true safety anymore, only the unsettling truth that awaited as we plunged into the depths of the unknown. As we barreled into the dimly lit corridor, my heart pounded like the heavy footsteps of the pursuer behind us. Each echo seemed to mock my feeble attempts at escape, taunting me with the weight of my past intertwined with my desperate present. Clara's hand remained clasped in mine, a lifeline anchoring me amidst the chaos. Where do we go? Clara gasped, her breath quickening as we rounded a corner. The shadows danced ominously at the edges of the flickering lamplight, shifting with every anxious breath we took. Alina led the way, her aura remaining strangely composed despite the mayhem. We need to find a way to the lower level. There are passageways there, old tunnels that might. She paused, glancing backward as we raced toward the staircase. They may provide a temporary safe haven. When we reached the staircase, an overwhelming chill swept over me, slicing through the adrenaline that had surged into my veins. I hesitated for just a moment, uneasiness constricting my chest. What darkness awaited down there? Yet the growl of my pursuer echoed in my mind, urging me onward. I could already hear him clear his throat, the sound like thunder rumbling in my ears, following us into the very abyss we were trying to evade. We stumbled downward, the narrow steps leading us into shadows deeper than fear itself. The air grew thick with dust and a forgotten familiarity, as if this place had been waiting for us, waiting for me for ages. With each step, remnants of ghostly whispers flitted around us, unsettling visions resurfacing like fragments of an abandoned dream. The walls closed in, and I wondered if this was how it felt to be hunted, not just by someone but by everything I had tried to suppress. Once we reached the darkened expanse of the lower level, I tried to steady my racing heart. This feels wrong, I muttered, unsure if I meant the space itself or the shadows lurking within me. We can't stop here, Leo urged, his low voice breaking through my scattered thoughts. If that thing is behind us, we may not have time to discuss feelings. He shot me a glance filled with an urgency I recognized. He was right, but the weight of Alina's revelation hung heavily on my mind. I want to flee from this, I whispered fiercely. Whatever it is, it's a part of me. Alina crouched near a wall, her fingers brushing against an array of ancient carvings. This might lead us to the passage, she whispered, but before her words could take root in my mind, I heard it a soft rumble, like distant thunder rolling across the sky. I turned to Clara, whose face had paled to a ghostly hue. We can't just hide here. If we stay, we'll drown in our own fears. I hesitated, knowing that I was on the precipice of something unthinkable, a confrontation not only with my pursuer but also with myself. Suddenly, the shadows gathered in a flicker of movement, coiling like wisps of smoke, forming into a silhouette that stood tall and menacing. The figure loomed, enveloping the space in a palpable darkness. Do you really think you can outrun what's inside of you? The man from my past taunted, stepping forward with an air of arrogance that caused a shiver to descend down my spine. You can't escape the truth, Ava. Stop! I shouted, my voice reverberating fiercely in the empty chamber. It should have felt empowering, but instead, it felt hollow and uncertain. The weight of his words pressed against my chest, entwining panic with regret. This is not just about you, he continued, reveling in my unease. You think you can defy your lineage, but trust me, the darkness isn't just a hunter. It is your birthright. Each word slithered into my mind, coiling around the core of my being. Did he speak truths meant to haunt me, or was this just another account of his twisted design? Enough! Clara barked, her voice breaking through the tension like a ray of light in the murk. You're lying. Am I? He laughed, and it sent a chill cascading down my spine. Then face the truth, face what you fear. You're tethered to the darkness, and it's time to claim it. His words stirred a flood of emotions, and I felt frayed. Like a thread unraveling beneath unwarranted scrutiny. What do you want? I faced him, my heart racing, a thin veil of defiance shimmering through despair. Why did you come back? I came to remind you what it means to be family, he said, his voice shifting to a concoction of sweet poison. But remember, dear sister, you cannot escape your own blood. Sister? The word resonated in my core, a jarring note that rippled through the tense air between us. What are you saying? And then I understood the injustices, the pain, the rekindling of a truth long buried under despair. The wellspring of family I had thought long severed was still very much alive, circulating through me, a legacy I had yet to confront. Your gift is awakening, he said, almost tenderly. Will you embrace it, or will you let it consume you? In that single moment, time suspended, and the chaos around me faded into the shadows. I was left teetering on the cusp of revelation and dread, the prospects of either igniting the flame or being swallowed by it echoing within the depths of my being. Before I could respond, the very walls trembled, and the darkness surrounding us thickened, as if waiting for my answer, ready to unleash itself. I had plunged into the unknown, grasping for agency in a fate that felt far beyond my grasp, and in that disorienting moment, deep within the caverns of my mind, truth began to awaken, lighting a path far more profound than the one I had ever imagined walking. Despair and hope flickered together like the faint glimmer of a candle, their intertwining dances preparing me for a confrontation I could have never foreseen. The weight of the moment settled over me, thick and suffocating, the darkness pressing down as if it wished to consume every shred of light. I stood before him, the specter of my past, feeling the pull of fate that was either leading me to acceptance or binding me deeper into despair. Clara's grip on my hand tightened as she stepped closer, her presence a reassuring warmth amidst the encroaching shadows. Ava, we can't let him get to you, she said softly, her voice trembling but resolute. Whatever he is trying to manipulate, don't give him that power. Yet the voice of my brother, the truth that this man embodied, wrapped around my thoughts like smoke, tantalizing and choking. Family, he said, rolling the word around his tongue like a bitter pill. Did I even know what that meant anymore? He was a specter of everything I had tried to outrun, yet here I was, caught in the crossfire of a legacy that offered neither solace nor salvation. Why now? I demanded, the defiance in my voice stirring a sense of purpose. What do you want from me? I want you to remember, he responded, his tone shifting from taunting to almost somber. There are things you've buried, memories you've cast aside, and powers you've denied. This place, the darkness that swallows your fear, it cradles the truths you've stifled. It will not let you go until you claim what's yours. A sick thought crossed my mind. What if I was bound to him, tethered to this legacy of shadows? No, I breathed. You're mistaken. I'm not like you. His chuckle was dry and sad, echoing mockingly in the dimly lit space. You'll see. The choices you face will reveal who you truly are. Suddenly, the walls reverberated with the rasping shock of friction, as if the very structure was groaning under the weight of our turmoil. I stole a glance at Alina, who was peering into the shadows with fierce determination. We need to find that passage, she urged, her words like a lifebuoy tossed into turbulent waters. Before I could reply, the silence was shattered by a snap of energy, the air crackling with tension. My brother's figure shifted, his limbs contorting as if trying to escape the confines of this world, and I felt that same weight shift within me. Embrace it, Ava, he whispered, his tones filled with a dark seduction. You need to remember who you are. No. I cried out, the desperation flooding every part of my being as I pulled Clara closer, unwilling to let the shadows encroach on my heart. But even as I struggled against the tide, I felt a twinge of resonance with his words, each syllable striking strings deep within. Memories I had long buried began to surface, forcing me to face the truth I had tried so hard to ignore. Images flashed at the edge of my consciousness: a kitchen full of laughter, a garden where blooming flowers mirrored the colors of light that once filled my life, the warmth of a familial embrace traded for the cold isolation of my rebirth. But then the shadows crept in: the betrayal, the heartbreak, the relentless guilt, and I jerked my head to clear the tide of memories overwhelming me. Stop, I choked out, but the shadows of the past wove into the present, melding into a tapestry of hurt. I could feel the fraying threads tugging at my soul, pulling me toward a familiar desperation. In that moment of chaos, a flicker of movement caught my eye. Leo knelt not far from us, his brow furrowed in concentration. He traced shapes on the ground, using his finger to carve letters in a language I could not comprehend. What are you doing? I asked, urgency blooming in my chest. Channeling energy to break the spell around us, he murmured, eyes still focused on the invisible script. This darkness is alive, it feeds on fear and anger. If we fight against our truths, we'll only make it stronger. Fight against it? My voice trembled as realization hit. But isn't facing it the way to conquer it? Facing it with purpose is one thing, he said, looking up with the intensity of someone who had battled these demons before. But surrendering to the dark without the knowledge of your strength. He paused, a look of concern etching into his expression. It will consume you if you let it. The shadows warped around us, the air pregnant with unsaid fears, emotions that rippled through our small group. I could feel Clara's heart racing beside me, our synchronized breaths stealing our resolve. And that was when it happened. A pulse of bright light surged from Leo's spell, piercing through the encroaching darkness. It arced across the room, momentarily illuminating the contours of my brother's twisted grin, and in that fraction of a second, I felt an unfamiliar energy rise within me, stirring something deep beneath my skin. Don't let it take you. Clara shouted, her voice laced with a fierce urgency, but before I could respond, the shadows recoiled, and a hollow laugh echoed, reverberating against the walls. You'll make a choice, Ava. And when the time comes, remember there is no escaping what lies in your heart. Then, with a roar that shook the very foundation beneath us, the passageway erupted, revealing darkness intertwined with flickering lights, pulling me towards the threshold of not just my past but my identity. The sudden rush of energy washed over me, leaving me breathless, grappling with the complexity of the lines drawn between salvation and complete surrender. I took a step back, my mind racing a combat between fear and something more potent than despair. Clarity began to form as I realized I was standing at the precipice of understanding who I was. Time stilled once again, balancing on the knife's edge separating redemption from my true darkness, and the inevitable truth was unfurling. This battle wasn't merely external, it echoed within my very soul. In that charged atmosphere, secrets bubbled to the surface, a revelation looming ever closer, threatening to break through the surface tension. The choice was starting to crystallize in my mind, but as the tension tightened around us, I felt the precariousness of it all, a storm brewing on the horizon just waiting for me to make my move. And with that realization, I heard his voice echo inside me, a haunting whisper, unsettling yet distinctly familiar. Claim your darkness, dear sister. It's time to awaken. As my heart raced in tumultuous beats, I knew that the very choice I was about to make would reshape everything. The shimmering line between light and shadow blurring, secrets colliding, and my identity hanging dangerously on the brink. The air in the room felt charged with an electric pulse, every heartbeat painfully loud as I stood on the precipice of a revelation that threatened to unravel everything I believed about myself. Confusion swirled like low-hanging fog, cloaking the edges of my understanding. I could feel the weight of my brother's presence at my back, a looming shadow pushing against the contours of my resolve. "Ava," Clara whispered, her voice a lifeline in the thickening tension. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Her unwavering gaze grounded me, reminding me that I wasn't alone, even as the invitation to embrace the darkness gnawed at my every thought. I thought of the small moments of light that had flickered through the abyss: Leo's courage, Clara's support, Alina's fierce determination. They were my anchors, each a thread woven into a fragile fabric that held me upright against the calamity of my past. The shadows writhed around us, morphing in and out of shapes that danced on the edge of recognition. With each pulse of energy from Leo's markings, the air thrummed with potential, a mixture of hope and despair that threatened to overwhelm me. "This darkness can only thrive on your fear, Ava," he reminded me, his voice steady as he continued to weave the protective sigils upon the cold stone floor. "You have the strength to redefine your story." Strength, I echoed, the word feeling foreign on my tongue, yet familiar enough to spark a flicker of recognition. What did strength look like to me? Did it mean surrendering to the shadows that had haunted me for so long, or standing resolute in the face of fear? Suddenly, the flickering light revealed glimpses of a sprawling tapestry decorated with faces from my childhood: a mother with gentle hands in the garden, an older sister with an infectious laugh that chased away clouds, and the silhouette of my brother, once a tender protector, now a twisted figure cloaked in darkness. They all watched, their expressions hauntingly still, begging for recognition. "Can you see them, Ava?" My brother's whisper echoed deeply, cutting through the heavy air. "The truth lies just beyond what you choose to remember." "No!" I shouted, appalled at the images flooding back, each flooding my heart with a mix of longing and sorrow. "They're memories of joy drowned by the pain you've caused." Yet even as I shouted, I felt the pull of those wanting to return: love buried under betrayal, warmth suffocated by loneliness. For an agonizing moment, I teetered between the two worlds, one where I could reclaim the beauty of the past and another where the darkness threatened to swallow me whole. As I swayed, Clara stepped forward, clutching my arm with both hands. "Please, don't look back. That's not who you are anymore. You're stronger than your memories." Her belief in me ignited a flicker of defiance, and I straightened, facing the warm glow of her light. "I want to let the darkness define me," I declared, allowing the strength I felt from Clara to surge within me. But before the newfound resolve could settle, a deafening roar erupted from the depths of the shadows, followed by a flicker of fiery red light that converged upon us like a storm. A figure surged forth, cloaked in darkness, its voice a guttural rumble that resonated deep within the walls. "You cannot escape me, Ava. Fear me, for I am the truth you cannot deny." The shadows around us coiled violently, feeding off my apprehension, intensifying the chaos as I lost sight of Clara. "Clara!" I screamed, the panic rising like bile in my throat. Leo acted quickly, his hands moving deftly as he fought to hold the energy together against the onslaught of shadows. "Ava, Focus. You have to address the darkness within you but not let it consume you. As I tried to center my thoughts, my brother stood before me, a grotesque mirror of our shared past. This is your choice: embrace the darkness or further your suffering. His grin was wide, an invitation that churned bile in my stomach. Only then can you find your true power. I was lost in the chaos of conflicting desires, consuming memories warring for dominance over my heart. But amid the storm of emotion, a fleeting thought broke through the small moments of hope. I thought of Alina, who stood strong against the siege of darkness, her spirit unwavering. I thought of Leo's fierce dedication, carving letters into the earth to fortify our bond. I thought of Clara, whose kindness shone through the inky black. A flicker of strength emerged from the well of despair within me, igniting a wave of determination. I will not fear you, I shouted, my voice steady and resolute. Suddenly the roaring shadows hesitated, curving inwards like a broken wave. You are part of my past, but you do not define my future. As I declared my truth, a radiant light burst forth from my core, washing over me a confluence of my memories transformed. The dark figure faltered, eyes narrowing as the shadows began to dissipate, revealing faces from my childhood, smiles shining brightly for the first time, but just as the darkness began to crumble beneath the weight of my conviction, an agonized scream pierced the air, Alina's scream, sharp and desperate. It shattered the moment, the discharge of light twisting and collapsing like a rallying wave crashing against a stone wall. No, Alina. I turned, my heart racing, and I saw her figure consumed by swirling shadows, a hand reaching out for me, a tether I couldn't grasp as the darkness coiled around her like a serpent, pulling her further away. It was then that I realized the stakes had escalated, and the true cost of this battle approached something more significant than I had anticipated. My heart leaped into my throat as a chilling thought settled in. The darkness was just after me. It was hunting those I loved. The shadows surged once more, and I knew that any choice I made now would echo through the hearts of those I held dear. Would I embrace the darkness to save her, or would I stand resolute, risking everything? As the clamor of chaos surged around me, I felt the heavy breath of fate closing in, an unbearable weight as I stood at the center of my unfolding destiny, caught between a burning desire to rescue Alina and the whispers of an awakening darkness, one that promised power if I dared to claim it. Time froze, and the weight of uncertainty settled like a thick fog, knowing the hardest choices were yet to come. In the dark, guilt and fear pressed against me like a malevolent hand, suffocating yet familiar. Alina's scream echoed in my ears, and I could feel Clara's grip tighten, our palms clasped in an unyielding bond forged by shared desperation. What had I awakened within myself? I glanced at my brother, cloaked in shadows, his eyes glittering with something dangerously seductive. You're being foolish, Ava, he taunted, a smirk creeping onto his lips. Do you really believe they'll save you? You were born into this darkness, and it's time you embraced it. No. The word flew from my lips, fierce and resolute. I could feel the weight of the truth crushing down my lineage did summon shades of darkness, but I was not destined to become a puppet to it. You do not own me. My heart thundered with a newfound defiance, igniting an ember deep within my spirit. As the shadows crept ever closer, curling like tendrils around my feet, I remembered the faces of those I loved, the laughter of my childhood, the warmth of a sister who once held my hand. The memories fed the fire deep within me, illuminating the corners where despair had grown wild. I refused to let fear define me. I shouted, shockwaves of strength rippling through the air, scattering the darkness like breaking dawn. The shadows buckled under the force of my determination, but my brother's laughter pierced through the moment, a grotesque sound wrapping around my heart. Foolish girl, he whispered, his voice hissing like serpents. You've merely delayed the inevitable. Give in to it. What did he know of my heart? Nothing, I realized. And as the golden light erupted from my core, enveloping the dark figure, it became clear, my power was not just about wielding light over darkness, but embracing both. I was not the fragile girl who was easily overwhelmed. I was a culmination of experiences, light mingling with shadows, and the depths of my soul demanded recognition. Alina! I cried out again, the urgency flooding through my veins. With every ounce of my strength, I reached for the light within me, forcing it outwards. I want to let you go. I choose to fight for you, for Clara, for this legacy we've unearthed together. Pushing beyond the shadows that coiled around me, I felt the warmth swell against the icy jaws of despair, wrapping around Alina's form, drawing the darkness away. You will not take her. I shouted as tendrils of light converged, illuminating her silhouette, urging hope to overcome the darkness. And then, like a burst of sunlight piercing through storm clouds, a fracture appeared in the shadows, spilling forth warmth and light, folding around Alina and pulling her from the brink. She emerged from the darkness like a fledgling, shaken but resolute, confusion swirling in her tear-streaked eyes. Alina faltered, but before she could finish, I stepped forward, my pulse thrumming with possibility. Together, I whispered, as Leo's spell binding the energy fanned outward, strengthening our newfound resolve. Clara stood firm at my side, the light reflecting in her eyes, showing her unwavering belief in us. Find your worth in the light. I proclaimed, shifting my gaze to my brother, who now swayed with uncertainty, the shadows surging again, but faltering under the cascade of our collective strength. You will not define us, not now, not ever. With a roar that shook the air, I summoned every ounce of courage, embracing the paradox of my lineage, of the light and dark intertwined. I am worthy of light, and I claim it. As the illumination erupted, cascading like gold, shadows twisted and shrieked, retreating from the overwhelming warmth. My brother's face contorted in rage, but even as he struck out, caught in the web of his own futility, the light pushed forward, encompassing him, revealing imperfections beneath the monstrous facade. Time felt suspended as I faced him, my heart a torrent of sorrow and understanding. You are not my enemy. You are my brother, and I will embrace the power you despise. The shadows withered around us, fading as I chased down the tendrils of hope coursing through my veins. I extended my hand to him, not as a savior but in understanding. Join me. Together, we can redefine what it means to carry our legacy. The darkness wavered, his form flickering in and out as the light enveloped him, entwining us all. Each heartbeat pulsed with the vibrant essence of unity. It's what made us strong. But then it happened. The shadows surged one last time, a howling tempest eager to reclaim its own. I felt the cold grip of despair attempting to claw back in, but I held firm, focusing on the warmth around us, the connection we forged. Claim your light. A voice echoed through the chaos, calling directly to my heart. The shadows recoiled fearfully, and I drew upon the spark of life nestled in my core. In that moment, I understood embracing all parts of myself made me whole, could transform darkness into purpose. With one last surge, I beckoned forth the light, unfurling it like a banner, resolute against the storm within. Together. I yelled, my breath carried by a fierce wind as it washed over my brother, Clara, and Alina. Each of us stood unyielding against the swirling mass of despair that threatened to consume us, and then it shattered. A brilliant cascade of light swallowed the shadows whole, peeling back layers of darkness, a soundless shaking that resonated through the very fabric of reality. Truth illuminated the corners long forgotten, despair transformed into sparkles of hope steadily weaving into the tapestry of our collective courage. As the world settled back into stillness, I felt a profound change within me. I looked around at the faces gathered in the remnants of that chaotic storm. Clara, who shone with an unwavering spirit, Leo, who battled his own shadows intertwined in mine, and Alina, who stood strong as a phoenix redeemed. Together, we had breached a wall that had loomed too long, one of judgment and fear. Finally, my gaze drifted back to my brother. The shadows that had cloaked him faded to reveal the boy who was once my ally, our bond unbroken through this shared darkness. Not just shadows anymore, I breathed as he nodded, understanding seeping between us. With our hands joined, hearts intertwined, we had claimed the power that could overcome our past, redefining what it meant to carry our lineage into the light. As I stood there surrounded by those I loved, the echoes of terror grew faint, replaced by an unyielding realization of hope. From the darkness, we grow, I whispered. together. And in that finale, as the world around us shimmered beneath the dawn of our newfound legacy, I understood I didn't escape the darkness, I embraced it, transforming it into something extraordinary, something powerful, woven from our deepest truths. A heart forever changed by the struggle but forever guided by the illuminating choice of love, and at that moment, I knew the darkness did not define me, it was merely a chapter in the story of my beautiful, imperfect, radiant life. With hearts wide open, we stepped forth, ready to write the next lines of our journey together, leaving behind the shadows that once sought to claim us. Together we rise, together we shine, I whispered as we walked into the warm light of the future. And finally, I felt at peace, my heart unburdened by the past, ready to embrace the beautiful unknown waiting ahead.